Today we have a masterclass about subversion and misdirection and twists. This was a topic that was suggested by one of our story department team members, Stephen, and I am indebted to him in terms of some of the suggestions that have ended up into this masterclass. I hope you enjoy it. You are going to entertain your audience, draw their attention to a specific aspect of the story, or the characters, or the scenery. In the meantime, you're actually doing something else. As an example, I'm going to give you two short clips from Coffee and Cigarettes by Jim Jarmusch from 2003, black and white film. By some considered as the best part of this film, Cousins, with Steve Coogan and Alfred Molina. I take two clips. I want you to see how it climaxes, what particular element the actors and Jim Jarmusch wrote the basic of the screenplay around which these actors have improvised. See where it leads to.
I'll make sure that gets filed.
Sure, yeah. Well, listen, you're going to be here for a couple of days, right? So maybe we could see each other before you go.
Yeah, okay. Just going through the mental diary. This is not good. The time I'm here.
Oh.
It's just, it's backed. I'm backed up.
Well, listen, no problem. Give me your cell phone number, and I'll call you before you go.
There's a story there. There's a tri-band system here in the States, which is different to system in the UK, and it's a kind of the cell phones out there don't work here, so I'm kind of cell phone less in the US.
Oh, I see. Well, give me your home number. I'll call you.
Well, you got my PA's number, right?
Yeah, but
great. Well, then we're connected.
Well, can't you give me your number at home?
Can I say no? Because nothing personal at all. It's just that I never give my number out, ever. It's just a personal space thing. And it's just a rule, and I always think, stick to the rule, stick to the rule. And it's more of a philosophy than a rule, really. And I have to say, I've not given my number out to many eminent people in the past. I once didn't give my number to Sam Mendes, so you're in good company.
Clearly, Steve Coogan doesn't want this meeting. He wants to get out of it, has zero respect for Alfred Molina, or at least pretends to. But then before he leaves, Alfred Molina's phone rings, and Alfred is talking to a certain Spike.
I'm sorry about that.
It's okay, fine. So, was that Spike Lee?
Oh, no. I don't even know Spike Lee. No, that was Spike Jones.
Spike Jones?
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah, he's a good man. Good man, Spike. Yeah, we've been friends for a long time now. We're both keen hikers. It's very...
No, don't.
Well, we belong to a club and we go hiking at weekends. And he's a very committed environmentalist.
Spike Jones is a tree hugger. Jesus, I never had him down as that.
Well, I think he prefers the term leaf people, as do I.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, it's don't get me wrong. That's great. I love trees. I think there should be more of them. When I use paper, use both sides. I would love to. I'm going to tear up that stupid rule about phone numbers and it's such shit. Would it be shabby of me to give you my number now?
Yeah.
So in that first part, we saw Alfred Molina being clearly the underdog.
Okay.
Friendly man, amiable, and then Steve Coogan playing the asshole. And then everything climaxes to the phone call, and in the third act, everything switches, power shifts, and then we understand that everything was essentially a setup for this moment. And we were misdirected to believe that Alfred Molina indeed was the underdog. And now it's good to know that this film was made in 2003. Spike Jonze had just done Adaptation the year before. Steve Coogan had just done 24 Hour Party People. But yes, so he's looking for work, would love to move to LA, and Alfred Molina is the one in power. He's the one with the connections, and I thought it was a wonderful example of dramatic misdirection. Now, what does misdirection need to achieve? A surprise. That's really what you're working towards. You want to surprise the audience, but rather than have that surprise coming from left field and kind of jolt them and, not kind of see the reasoning, you set it up, you prepare it very carefully. So misdirection is really about a surprise that is prepared. I want to give you another example from the movie Heat by Michael Mann. Al Pacino plays Vincent Hanna, who's chasing Robert De Niro, who plays robber Neil McCauley. Robert De Niro and his crew are seen at the port of Los Angeles, and they're clearly casing a target. And the police is witnessing them. The police are looking at them as they are looking around at the ports. And then the robbers disappear. And then the police go to the place where the robbers were to try and figure out what exactly they were preparing, what they were casing.
Got an idea of what they're looking at. You want to know what they're looking at? What? I mean, is this guy something or is he something? This crew is good. You know what they're looking at? What? Us. The LAPD, the police department. We just got made. Yeah! Okay. Ha! Okay, motherfucker!
So in this case, Robert De Niro is the criminal, he's the robber, he's the magician. He has misdirected the cops. He set this up, and we are experiencing this with Al Pacino as the character of the detective. So it's misdirection actually inside the story. It's not so much the filmmaker's misdirection, but it is misdirection in the story, which is, in this case, equally, if not more effective. After this class, you may be tempted to use a lot of this in your own writing, so I need to give you a few disclaimers. First of all, misdirection is not a license for confusion. As you are setting things up, there are three ways of doing this. The first way is where the audience doesn't realize it's being set up. Second, they realize something is being set up and they start playing with anticipation, which can be very effective if you then pay it off for the surprise. But then the third one is where they realize you're doing something, but they don't realize what it is, but there's also nothing else to be enjoyed. So we need to make sure that as you direct the attention away from what you're setting up, you give the audience something worth watching. And later today's class will give you the example of The Sixth Sense. And Sixth Sense is a phenomenal example of misdirection. But we had a proper story irrespective of the twist at the end. So if there had not been any twist, we still would have had a proper dramatic story. And that's really important, that as you're setting up these elements, the audience is experiencing an emotional story. Now, not everybody loves this sort of surprises and realization that they have been put on the wrong foot. It depends on how you do it, depends on where you do it. I, for one, am not a fan of misdirection late in the story and then a big surprise that you can't play with anymore because the movie's over. And I'll give you an example of that as well. But sometimes it's really well done. So it is always execution dependent. Yesterday there was a question about a case of misdirection by a very skilled writer that ultimately didn't work. And it may well be that it was rushed because proper setup requires development and it requires time and discipline. Usually we have a 1, 2, 3 structure where first we have a question or a setup, then that question is answered, and then there's a second payoff that provides the twist. So the number 2 is kind of like what we had expected. That's the misdirection, and the third one is the surprise, is the payoff. In comedy, we have it all the time. Here's a really simple example from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Here are 2 pictures. One is your locker, the other is a garbage dump in the Philippines. Can you tell which is which?
That one's the dump.
They're both your locker.
I should have guessed that. He's good.
This folder is labeled undies, dirty.
So I won't confuse it with undies, clean. Also, who cares about all these rules? I have more felony arrests than any other detective here.
You also have more mice living in your desk than any other detective.
Algernon! You guys, Algernon's back.
Get rid of the mouse and get your act together now.
He's grumpy.
So 2 times 1, 2, 3. First, with the 2 photos, one of the locker, one of the garbage dump. What we think it's going to be. So you have the question, then you expect the answer that it's going to be 1, but the outcome is a third option where it is both. And you often have that in the dilemma or the lowest point of a story, where it seems like there are only 2 options, but then there is a third option that was prepared, where there was a misdirection towards that third option. In this clip from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, there was a second case of misdirection, because when the chief talks about the mouse and he opens the drawer, we expect that Peralta is going to be in trouble and is going to respond with embarrassment or shame. We get the opposite. So we're misdirected there. He is excited to have found his mouse. Certain genres have more misdirection than others. Mystery is one of them, but mystery works better in print than on the screen, as you may already know. The whodunit is a kind of mystery, but it's more focused. We are after one question: who did it? That may or may not work. We'll have the example from Knives Out, which was done very well because it was subverted. It was not your traditional whodunit. Thriller may have misdirection. Horror and superhero movies these days are quite subverted. The shows, maybe The Boys and Watchmen, that are not traditional superheroes. So it's subversion of the genre. So the misdirection there is that you are led to believe you're going to get a traditional superhero, and then the surprise works when you get something else that may deliver on 2 levels. Another example of a subversion of a superhero movie is Logan, where we see more of a deeply dramatic film rather than an action-adventure film. WandaVision is another subversion of that. In comedy, the misdirection is very popular, and you may remember this scene from 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
You want one of these?
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Charles. Hello, John. How are you? Good. This is,
Carrie.
Carrie. Delighted, I'm John.
Hi, John.
So, John, how's that gorgeous girlfriend of yours?
She's no longer my girlfriend.
Ah, dear. Still, I wouldn't get too gloomy about it. Rumour has it she never stopped bonking old Toby Delisle just in case you didn't work out.
She is now my wife.
Excellent. Excellent. Congratulations.
Excuse me.
1, 2, 3. Set up, payoff, and then the misdirected surprise that delivers the comedic beat. Always a win. In horror, we're going to look at Scream. Drew Barrymore was on all the promotional materials for this film. She was the lead, at least advertised as the lead of the film. And then there was this misdirection. In the beginning, we think we're being, her character's being set up, but it kind of subverted the genre.
The rest sucked.
So, you got a boyfriend?
Why? You want to ask me out on a date?
Maybe.
It played with all the tropes except the one. The trope of the final girl, where we expect that she's going to be the one who will ultimately survive. Instead, she's the one who goes first.
What did you say?
I want to know who I'm talking to.
That's not what you said.
What do you think I said?
So at that point, you want to know where the film will lead and how it's going to navigate the the known tropes and how it's going to give us something fresh.
I thought we were gonna go out.
Nah, I don't think so.
Don't hang up on me.
In the TV show Wellington Paranormal, you have a mix of both comedy and horror, and there we play with a mix of those tropes.
She might have been left behind by her friends. She's feeling a bit lost. She might need some sort of assistance. Let's go and see if she's okay. Hello, love. Hi there. She's very quiet. Oh, are you all right? I guess that's a no. I mean, yeah, this is very unusual. I mean, that's a lot to come out of quite a small person. I think she's clearly quite unwell. I mean, we want to know what's happened to her tonight and what's made her vomit like this. Get it out. Get it. Over that way is better. Get it all out. I'm going to request for assistance. Minot, requesting assistance over here.
Copy, O'Leary. What's your location?
I'm right behind you.
Translate.
Again, misdirection on two levels. First of all, it's this hyper-realistic style where we believe this, it's kind of like a documentary, then becomes a mockumentary. And then again, when she calls for assistance, there's another misdirection there. Wellington Paranormal, that's the title. Sometimes we have a fourth beat, 1, 2, 3, question, answer, and then the unexpected twist. In some cases, we go further, and we have that sometimes at the end of a movie. In Hot Fuzz, there was the take on the unexpected twist ending that kept continuing. Here is a scene from Barton Fink, the Coen Brothers film, in which we see John Turturro in a hotel, and next door someone is crying.
Hello? Chet? Speaking. This is Barton Fink in room 621. Yes. There's someone in the room next door to mine, 623. And he's making a lot of noise.
I'll take care of it right away, sir.
Thank you.
What? Huh? Who?
And then when he opens the door, we see the imposing figure of John Goodman, who doesn't seem to be happy. But then there's a third beat where he seems to be an amiable man, and he's quite friendly. And it keeps going, because then we learn that he's essentially a serial killer. So the twists keep piling up. Not easy to pull off successfully, though. Certain films were exceptional in terms of their misdirection. Usual Suspects, a brilliant example. But again, it's often this particular film that students give as an example when they indicate how they love twists and mystery and surprises. There aren't very many who pull it off in the way this film did. Sixth Sense is another one. In the comedy genre, romantic comedy, 500 Days of Summer subverted the genre in that it didn't end on a happy ending. Get Out is not your average horror story, and there's a lot of misdirection in terms of the characters and where they end up. Invisible Man will give you the ending. That's the one we're going to spoil today. And similar for the ending of Promising Young Woman, it's not what you would have expected. Another take, you could say, another example of the subversion of the final girl, if you wish. Certain filmmakers were brilliant, or are still brilliant, in terms of delivering those misdirections. Alfred Hitchcock, think of Psycho, but also Vertigo. The ending of Vertigo is a brilliant example of paying off on something that had been set up for the entire film. Rian Johnson learned from Hitchcock, and he subverted the Star Wars franchise with The Last Jedi, where Luke turns out to be a fallen hero, and Rey's parents turn out to be nobodies, and there's a character killed that you didn't see coming. Rian Johnson also did Knives Out, And I think I might have failed to include the clip again today, but I've got 2 other clips that I didn't have yesterday, so that'll make up for it. David Fincher, if you've seen Gone Girl, you've seen a brilliant example of misdirection. Seven is another example of a good Fincher film with misdirection towards the end. Tarantino is known for his revisionist films where we are moving towards a resolution in most of these films where the climax turns out very different from what we expected. And in his latest Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that is about the time of the Charles Manson killings. And as we approach the day, there's anticipation, so we're led to believe that that's what we're going to witness. But then Quentin subverts that. Coen Brothers with Fargo, even earlier with Raising Arizona, and No Country for Old Men. And Pixar have some great examples of misdirection as well. In television, the whole genre of the Nordic Noir revolves largely around misdirection, because Nordic Noir is often about whodunits, and the whole show is often a series of misdirections. Big Little Lies did that. We showed you the opening of that show earlier. Sharp Objects is a good example. In Breaking Bad, you have misdirection occasionally, and I think the story plot around the Lilies of the Valley is a good example of that. More Flowers with the White Lotus, we'll have a clip of that. We'll also have some clips from Yellowstone where there was a great example of repeated misdirection towards the end of season 3. The setup of the show Afterlife directs us towards something that feels quite dark, deep, and very serious.
You've got to turn the alarm off in the morning, yeah? Because if you open the door, it'll set it off, and then the alarm company think we're getting broken into. If you do set it off, you've got to ring them. The number's in your phone under alarm. The alarm code is 8645. That's your PIN code. You know this. And put it on perimeter, otherwise the dog will set it off. And feed the dog, yeah? First thing in the morning and when you get in from work. And what else? Got to put the bins out Tuesday evenings. Black bin is household waste, green bin is recycled.
Tony's wife, who was the love of his life, died of cancer, and that's how the show starts. So not a happy moment, but it is the setup for a brilliant comedy series. Westworld, another example.
I'm in a dream.
That's right, Dolores. You're in a dream. Would you like to wake up from this dream?
Yes. I'm terrified.
There's nothing to be afraid of, Dolores, as long as you answer my questions correctly. Understand?
Yes.
Good. First, have you ever questioned the nature of your reality?
Not only the character needs to question her reality, we need to question what we see. And what we see will turn out to be vastly different. She's not just a droid or an AI created to give pleasure to the visitors of Westworld. She turns out to become the hero of the show and have quite some power, control, and initiative. So it's a film that reflects on what consciousness means and what it means to be human and so forth. And the first scene misdirects us to make us believe that she is merely a tool, and even if she were to have any consciousness, then that she would be an underdog, she would be a victim, and that is subverted in the course of the show. Another example, her counterpart, at least we expect, is a character who comes in from the outside, who's a visitor, who's one of the humans, who's going to visit Westworld to satisfy his pleasures, his fantasies. And that happens in this scene.
We were all new to this world. The newcomers are just looking for the same thing we are. A place to be free, to stake out our dreams. A place with unlimited possibilities.
Oh God, it's incredible.
Better be for what we're paying.
So we enter the point of view of this character. We will get to know the town of Westworld through his eyes. He's a newcomer just like we are. At least that is what we're led to believe. Here's an example of a very early setup in the TV show White Lotus. This is the first scene.
Which hotel were you at?
White Lotus.
White Lotus. Our guide told us someone was killed there.
The body's on our plane.
On our plane? To Honolulu?
Yeah, they're about to load the body on our plane.
Well, other than that, did you have a good vacation?
It's my honeymoon.
Yeah, congratulations.
Oh, wonderful. Was it everything you hoped?
Where's your wife?
Yeah, where's your wife?
No offense. Leave me the fuck alone.
Works on many levels. A clear case of building anticipation. We want to know what happens, so we're also getting a few suggestions what might have happened. But then those expectations are superbly subverted in the course of the show.
I understand clearly what misdirection is, but I'm still a bit confused how subversion is different.
I always just go to the etymology of the words. Subversion really means flipping, turn it upside down. So you can take any element and turn it upside down. You can take a genre and subvert it and make it into something different. You expect something, but you get something else. In terms of, I'd say the subversion is usually built on an existing expectation that doesn't need to be set up. If you go to see a horror movie and you get Scream is a subversion. There was no setup before you went to see the film. So that it's a subversion of the genre. Whereas misdirection, the word itself shows or indicates that we're pointing towards something, and it's the pointing is one element, and then arriving there. When you arrive there, you get something else. You know, you give someone directions, but the directions are not leading to what you expect. So that necessitates points in time. So misdirection has to do with the setup and the payoff, whereas subversion is just giving the audience something else that they might have expected at that particular point.
Is there a real reason why you would want to do it? You know, it should. I'm imagining it shouldn't just be like a gimmick, right? There should be a real reason.
It's all about engaging the audience. It's about entertaining. It's about breaking through predictability.
Yeah, I think sometimes with a shock value, it can really be powerful. Like you said, Promising Young Woman, I think, was a great example of that.
Yeah, but you can also see that wouldn't have worked as well if that film had been brimming with similar effects. It is something, the surprise ultimately numbs you, and you may get to expect it. And then the payoff needs to be bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think that the more sparingly you work with it, the greater the effect will be. Griffin, I'm going to start spoiling season 3 of Yellowstone. Yellowstone is the story of a rancher, John Dutton, in Montana, who owns a vast estate that's been there for over 100 years, and now it's under threat. It's under threat from the developers who want to buy up the land to build houses for the rich. And he's also under threat from the Native Americans who are campaigning to reclaim their land and restore it into its original state. But there's also a threat from within.
I was raised to run that ranch. I built it into what it is today.
Then run it.
It's not mine. It's not for sale, not that I could afford it.
Yeah, nobody can afford Yellowstone. Yellowstone ain't a ranch, it's an empire. Empires you take.
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, it's the simplest thing on earth. You kill the king.
So that's a clear setup, but that would be too simple. So you're going to create diversions, and here's the next misdirection.
They make war when they want, where they want. They take what they want. And then they make rules to keep you from taking it back. They make rules for the slave, and they make rules for the masters. you're following the slave rules. But if you follow the master's rules, then you'll kill him and give us our land back. You travel with a man from a warrior clan, but you do not let him make war. You make him a slave too. Maybe you've heard enough that you don't ask permission. Maybe you go and make war for our people. And then we go home.
So the second one, there's motive in this camp as well. But it doesn't end. I told you there's threat from inside the family, there's threat from the Native Americans, but there's also a threat from the developers.
You need to start playing dirty.
I've been playing dirty. They play dirty right back.
They're playing a zero-sum game. They're doing it with my fucking career. I will not have it.
Don't feel much like a land deal in Montana, does it?
No, it feels like an oil deal in Yemen, and from now on, that's how we treat it. Can you do that?
I can do whatever you want.
The payoff follows a similar sort of recipe, similar sort of structure, where you believe that you're seeing the payoff of what's been set up, but it doesn't end there. And I hope that's sufficiently vague. In games, you may have a similar sort of structure. There may be misdirection. The Last of Us 2, which was released, I think last year or the year before, puts us on a different path than we would have expected from watching or playing the first game. Now, some of misdirection plays on cheats. So you're cheating the audience to a degree. Sometimes the audience feels cheated. You don't want that. Sometimes it's delightful, and then when they rewatch, they see that they could have essentially worked it out if they had paid attention. Sixth Sense, great example. I want to show you how the cheat is written in the screenplay, because in the case of The Sixth Sense, the reader has no chance of working it out, because the misdirection is so powerful that it's essentially manipulated. It's tricking the reader rather than just stating the facts. I know this may be vague. Let's watch the scene first. If you haven't seen Sixth Sense, I'm going to have to spoil it for you. The character of Bruce Willis in this movie is dead. And so he believes he's sitting there with his wife, but she does not see him.
I think it might be some kind of abuse. Cole has scratches on his arm. I think they might be fingernail cuts. Defensive cuts, maybe. I don't know.
Might be some kind of abuse. And then in the script it says, that makes Anna turn back. She glances across the table and looks down. The cuts on Cole's arms, and he continues talking about Cole. So in the script, it makes it seem as if Anna can indeed hear Malcolm, because it's described as if she's responding to what he says. When he says it might be some kind of abuse, that makes Anna turn back. Later, obviously, we learn that he wasn't there, she didn't see him, so that was a pure coincidence. Now, you could have technically just written this as saying Anna turns back. She glances across the table, then looks down, rather than deliberately writing the connection between Malcolm's actions and her response. So it's a bit of a cheat. Technically, you don't need it, but it also gives the reader one less opportunity to work it out for themselves. In Toy Story 3, we have a similar case, but I think there the writer, Michael Ahn, is a little bit fairer to the reader. Let's have a look at this. What you need to know is there are two boxes in the car. One box is for the attic, one box is for college. The box with college written on it has Woody inside. The box with attic written on it has the other toys. So Woody's supposed to be in this box. And that's supposed to be Woody's point of view.
Don't go in there. The bakery is haunted. Shh, are you crazy? You'll wake up all the ghosts. Look out!
So Andy's now going to give the toys to the girl. I think it's Bonnie. And we expect that that's going to be all the toys except for Woody. And then there's this massive reveal, which is a result of the misdirection, that Woody was also in the box. So that means that Woody was not in the box in the car. So when we then got to see that point of view shot, that was a clear case of misdirection. Here, it just says point of view college box. It doesn't say point of view Woody. So in this case, there's no manipulation, there's no trickery. It's suggested, but it's not said that it is Woody. So different from Sixth Sense, who clearly created the connection between Malcolm's words and his wife's response. Here, it's just stated what it is. It's the college box point of view. It's not Woody's point of view. We're heading towards the end of today's class. One funny example of misdirection. When I did research, I came across this entry on Reddit where someone says there's this misdirection in The Shining where there's a room that has a window where there shouldn't be any window, and this is the scene.
Did they give you any idea in Denver about what the job entails?
Only in a very general way.
So if you watch the film, we'll see when Jack leaves this office and he walks out and he goes left and left again, there's a corridor, there's no outside. So that window we see there is actually inside the hotel. So that's a misdirection that plays on an unconscious level. Oh, I still do have the twist in the tail. That's right, I promised I would spoil The Invisible Man for you. And this is one of those examples of a very late misdirection or a very late payoff.
911, what is your emergency?
Please, you have to help me, please. I'm with somebody and I think he's trying to kill himself.
Hurry, you have to...
You have to hurry. Please. It's 3333 Celestial Drive. Please. Surprise.
I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a like. Even better, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to be notified next time we post free content here, make sure you push the bell button. There's a lot more here on this channel. Browse around. We have short snippets. We have full-length 1-hour masterclasses. And there's certainly something in there to your taste. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time. Bye.